At the last debate, Paul at the very end mentioned the health and safety of our lakes. And it was something that we didn't get to talk about, and I was wondering what you think needs to be done to better improve the public's access to safe, healthy lakes.
First of all, I'd like to just compliment many here who are part of community activists who've worked very diligently, particularly as it applies to both Lake Wingra as well as to Monona Bay and Lake Monona. A couple of things about the lakes. First, I think we ought to have an objective, which is, unlike previous years where as many as 30 to 40 days of the hot summer, the beaches were closed because of high bacterial counts, we set an objective of not one day where a beach is closed. That's the first thing. The second thing has to deal with your goose. And I know that this neighborhood and the adjacent neighborhoods are divided over the geese. And it's a perfect example where I don't necessarily know what the right answer is. I know from my viewpoint what I'd like to do. I would prefer to have tall grasses along the edge of the lakes that prevent the geese from entering. That's my preference. Some people don't like that because it's unsightly. Well, then the question is that within the budget constraints we have, can we do something to put more native vegetation in there that's not as unsightly? But the point is, this is the basis for community discussion where we need a process, we need staff resources, we need deadlines, and then we have to act. Plan, do, check, act. You know, it's that simple. Now, the problem's a little more complicated than just getting rid of the geese. We're part of a larger watershed. We have to cooperate with the county and surrounding communities, and we have to engage the University of Wisconsin, which is one of the largest property owners of shoreline around our community. The other thing I just want to mention about all of this is the role of chemicals. It used to be that the city had control over the application of chemicals to the weeds. And for many years we opposed the use of aquathol for a number of reasons. That responsibility was taken away from us. But I think we have to work very closely with the DNR and make it clear to them as well as to the county what our feelings are. It would mean, and again this is outside of our realm, more weed harvesting on the part of the county, which has worse budget constraints than we do. And the second thing is understanding the nature of the lakes. As Professors Hassler and Cottom used to say, other than the bacterial counts, our lakes aren't dirty. They're just too healthy because of all the nutrients that come in. And we have to do two things. We have to get the nutrients, we have to stop the nutrients from coming into the lakes, and once they're in, we have to remove them.
Yeah, basically the strategy is that you've got to have less runoff. That means have more of the rainwater actually soak into the ground where it falls, and then if it does run off, you want to make that runoff as clean as possible. Those are the two basic strategies. So on the first one, we developed a program a few years ago called 1,000 Rain Gardens. Some of you may have them in your front terraces. I have one in my front terrace, and I take care of that rain garden. My wife is sitting here. She told me we could have the rain garden on the condition I took care of it, so I take care of it. That's one thing you do. And we're promoting pervious service paving, that kind of thing. Then you need to try to make sure that what runoff does occur is as clean as possible. So we've increased street sweeping. That's one of the best things you can do. In fact, we expanded it to the 13th district a few years ago. And we enacted an ordinance prohibiting phosphorus fertilizers in the city of Madison. I think Dane County did as well. So those are the basic strategies. There's other things I could talk about. But then you've got an issue with regard to, as Paul mentioned, the beaches. And that is an issue of bacteria. And I thought I heard him say that he was for euthanizing the geese. You can write that down. No, he didn't. That was an issue of some controversy a few months back. But one of the things that we've done, and one of the reasons beaches are closed more often isn't necessarily because they're in any worse shape than they were 20 years ago, but we know more. We test those beaches more than just about any public health department in the country. But one of the things that we can do, and this won't help with bacteria, but with some of the weeds and algae, is that we've built booms. At Bernie's Beach, for example, we had a boom which was very successful that made the swimming area a lot cleaner. We've also got a diverter that came off of the limnology lab into Lake Mendota to help with some of the longshore action, moving weeds and stuff down the shore to the Memorial Union area. So those are kind of cosmetic things, but they do help in terms of the appreciation of our lakes. But the biggest issue really is not the city of Madison. We contribute only 2% of the phosphorus that goes into the Lake Mendota watershed. Most of it comes from the agricultural uses north of the lake. And for that, you've got to deal with manure runoff. And so the county has been working on a couple of manure digesters, which is probably the single most important thing we can do to clean up the lakes. But I'll tell you what, Governor Walker has proposed the elimination of phosphorus standards, which would be a tremendous step backwards.